Greetings petrolheads, welcome back to Automation the Car Company Tycoon game. So yesterday the Merson won and today we're going to be looking at 3 more trucks. We're going to be looking at the first up is the Shane Piker ALTC by Shane Piker. I hope I didn't mispronounce that name. We have the ALTC Orca by Fayfox, and we have the Lerker ILTC by David 5002. So let's check out the this truck. All right, so the looks are fine, kind of like also a little bit European, not really looking like the stereotypical American truck in my opinion, but that's fine. Not all trucks need to look exactly the same, so it's good. Also noticing that this has a slightly shorter wheelbase than most other trucks that we've seen. The other ones all had like 338, 351 or something like that. This has 293, so that's roughly 40 centimeters shorter of a wheelbase, which will make a difference in footprint and therefore it will affect the prestige. Also, it'll make for less, storing or less loading capacity on the back. But we'll see how things go. So this is an AHS steel ladder chassis with corrosion-resistant steel panels. We got 4x4 drivetrain and a 6-speed automatic. We got double wishbones up front, leaf springs in the rear, and 340 horsepower from a 5.9 liter V8. Let's check out the engine. So this is modern pushrods on a full aluminum V8. We got forged steel crank, I-beam steel conrods, forged pistons, and we have 40 cam profile, which is pretty normal. 9:1 compression ratio, VVT, single configuration performance intake on this V8. Don't mind the black background, I was just making some transparent pictures for the thumbnail right before starting this episode. I should have restarted the game. Reverse flow mufflers, and we get 340 horsepower, 353 pound-feet of torque. Some of the lower torque that we've seen in this composition, but that's okay. 6-speed automatic manual locker, so that's going to be good off-road. Off-road is 53.7, which is pretty damn good. So you can off-road this truck, which is nice. Hard long life road tires, 245s all around, 17-inch rims. It's kind of the smallest rims we've seen so far, I think. But a nice amount of tire tread, so the ride quality should be good. And steel rims. 6 piston vented discs up front, 2 piston vented discs on the rear. A semi-clad under tray. A lot more cooling than required, but that's good for reliability reasons. Bad for economy, but who cares in a big truck like this. Luxury interior with 5 seats, luxury sat-nav, +1 quality into interior and entertainment, and then +1 into the safety, which is advanced 2000 safety to begin with. Active comfort springs, I think that's the first time we've seen those. And then adaptive dampers and passive sway bars, giving us 59.6 drivability, 64.3 comfort, and 42.5 prestige. That's pretty low, and I think that's where the smaller footprint from the smaller body size is starting to kick in. And practicality is good at 76.1. Utility is pretty damn good as well with 82.1. So the smaller body size didn't really hurt in that regard. Price, oh, 47,850. That's like 12 grand under the limit. So this is the cheapest truck so far. Is it the worst? No, certainly not. Actually, this is a pretty like good overall package for the price, considering that this is like 10 grand less than some of the other trucks that we've seen. You're not really getting that much less. The one thing I will say is that the prestige is really quite low. I think it's the lowest we've seen so far. But for this is like the one truck that, you know, would be kind of in a similar market, but just one size smaller, I guess. Otherwise pretty similar to everything else that would have a big V8 and a nice luxury interior, but just, you know, one size smaller, which does affect prestige, but it's also cheaper. So I don't know. Let's check out the other trucks. The ALTC Orca. Wow, now that's a fancy looking truck. Kind of reminds me of the AAG Canyonero that we've seen in the first episode, because there's so much chrome and, you know, the side exhaust and everything. The Canyonero didn't have the chrome front bumper, which this does, but it had a lot of chrome on the front as well, and it had the lights on the roof. Sure, that's a pretty solid looking truck. So let's see what's underneath. This is, yeah, 338. That's pretty much where everybody else's truck is in terms of wheelbase. 4x4 drivetrain, corrosion resistant steel ladder chassis and corrosion resistant steel panels. 7-speed automatic and double wishbones up front, solid axle coil on the rear. And then we have a 6.5 liter turbocharged straight 6, making 390 horsepower. Now that's a lot of torque. We got modern push rods. Wow, a full cast iron straight 6 here. That's gonna be a heavy engine. Look at that, 333 kilograms for this engine. That's massive. That sort of weight is what you'd get from like a 1969 or something, 7-liter V8 from a full-size muscle car. That's the sort of weight that this engine makes. It is quite large, to be fair, but, you know, from aluminium, if you made this from aluminium, how much would you save? I'm curious now. Yeah, full aluminium, this would be like 53 kilograms lighter. That's a lot. So we got a forged steel crank, I-beam steel conrods, forged pistons, 30 cam profile, VVT, huge water to air intercooler. You could probably go with large. Yep, and that would save another 7 kilograms without affecting anything else, except for making it slightly more responsive. Pretty large turbine size and compressor size, low AR ratio, and then low max boost, but, you know, there's still so much torque, and it comes in really early. So this is how I would have expected some of the other really large turbo engines in this competition to perform. You can see that the turbo has its max boost already at 1800 RPM. So really low RPM before it kicks in. multi-point injection, single configuration, standard intake, all the way leaned out, 5000 RPM rev limit, and 2 reverse flow, actually 1 reverse flow, 1 baffled muffler. I don't know what the baffled muffler is gonna really be good for, maybe to save a little bit of costs. But you know, reverse flow is just better for noise reduction, and straight through is better for airflow, so that might make slightly more power, or just, you know, make better noises for sporty cars or something. Baffled mufflers I've always kind of glanced over because they don't really do anything particularly well, except for being cheap. So 390 horsepower, 486 pound-feet of torque. That's a lot of torque, and you get it for a long duration. Manual locker, a 7-speed automatic, 20-inch alloy rims on 275mm tires all around, and quite a lot of tire tread as well. 6 piston vented discs up front, 3 piston vented discs on the rear. Oh, actually -2 quality on the brakes. No under tray, no wing angle, because obviously wouldn't really do anything anyway. Actually, yeah, it would. Look at that lip. And does this count as an aerodynamic fixture? I don't know, I've never used it. I don't think it does though. Anyway, more than enough cooling. We have 5 seats, luxury interior, luxury sat-nav. Actually negative quality in both of these sections as well. And advanced safety, hydro-pneumatic springs, with again negative quality in the suspension section. 53.5 drivability is lower than on a lot of other entries we've seen. 67 comfort is really good though. So is the prestige of 53.1, and practicality and utility are where you'd expect them to be for a truck like this. Reliability is 70.2, so anything above 70 is really good. So now let's look at the price. How much does this cost? 51,450, so it's about 3,500 or something like that, more expensive than the previous truck, which had pretty much the same practicality, more utility, better drivability, but slightly less comfort and a lot less prestige. A lot less prestige. Like 10 points is a lot. So, which one of these two would be better? I don't know. Like this is just a larger truck. Also has a larger engine, a lot more torque, but you know, the drivability is quite a bit lower. I don't even know what that would translate to in practice though on this truck, because with an automatic gearbox and the way that this turbo spools up so early, I don't think it would be that hard to drive, honestly. And 53.5 is still, you know, generally speaking, quite good. So let's check out the last entry for today. The Lerker ILTC. Pretty simple design. Big chrome grille up front. And pretty simplistic taillights as well. But trucks usually have pretty simplistic designs. Oftentimes anyway. I mean, today maybe some of them have really fancy headlights with tons of LEDs and stuff like that, but 10 years ago they didn't really. So 338 wheelbase, so that's the same as the previous truck we've seen. I think slightly more, it has slightly longer bed in the back, because I think that the overall length on this one is longer than on the previous one. With an AHS steel ladder chassis, corrosion resistant steel panels, 4x4, 6-speed automatic, double wishbones up front, coil springs on the rear, 425 horsepower from a 6.5 liter V8. So let's look at the engine. So that's a full aluminium dual overhead cam 4-valve per cylinder V8. It's got VVL. It's got a forged steel crank, I-beam steel crown rods, forged pistons. Really low cam profile, and then a moderate VVL profile of 46. And that means that you don't really have that much low-end torque, and it kind of spikes in the middle and then it drops off again. Multi-point EFI, single configuration, standard intake, all the way leaned out. Revs up to 6,700 RPM, which is one of the higher red lines we've seen so far. And then long-turer headers, 2 reverse flow mufflers, 425 horsepower, 412 pound-feet of torque. That's a nice amount of torque. Not overwhelming, but you know, enough grunt for sure. So a 6-speed automatic, viscous limited slip diff with +3 quality. 18-inch steel rims on 275mm tires all around. We have plenty of tire tread as well. 6 piston vented discs up front, 2 piston vented discs on the rear, and slightly more aggressive pads in the front and slightly less aggressive pads in the rear than average. Just enough cooling airflow and a little bit of quality in the aerodynamics section. Now, I don't know how much that's really gonna help on, you know, a vehicle that's basically shaped like a brick on the front. But, you know, it's fine. 5 seats, luxury interior and entertainment, all driver assists and advanced safety. Then we have progressive springs with gas monotube dampers and passive sway bars. So a more simplistic setup here. Definitely cheaper than the other fancy stuff we've seen today. And that's gonna reduce run costs. And look at that, economy is pretty good. I think that's the best economy out of the 3 cars today, despite being a 6.5 liter V8, which is the biggest engine. And also, actually there was a 6.5 liter turbo straight 6, but this is a naturally aspirated V8, and it makes more power than the straight 6. Less torque but more power, and it uses less fuel apparently, somehow. What are the other stats like? 61 drivability, 61.1 comfort. Now drivability is good, comfort is slightly below the others. Prestige is somewhere in the middle between the other two, although generally it's okay. It's not too bad. And practicality is good, utility is great. 86.1 utility is, if not the highest, then the second highest we've seen so far. And price is at 48,450, so another really cheap truck. This puts it on the same level of price as the first truck, which was the Shane Pica's truck, which doesn't really have a proper name. And it's a larger truck, it has better prestige, It's got slightly better drivability. It's losing out on comfort, but it makes up for it for having better practicality and utility, and surprisingly better fuel economy, which doesn't really matter that much, but you know, when compared head to head. And this one's bigger, got more power, more torque, more drivability, and more prestige, and on top of all that also uses a little bit less fuel. Then I think that as a total package makes it overall better. So I think this one is the best of the three today, with a question mark at the end though. I'm not quite sure. What do you guys think? I think this round is pretty close. So let me know what you think, which one of these three was best. And hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another one. Goodbye.